All right, folks, and in this segment, we're going to talk about the thing you're going to really be relying on, and that's the paddle. Now, you don't have to go out and buy a paddle. I'm going to show you a couple of different paddles just for fun, but I want you to understand that the rental that we're doing on the practice sessions are going to get you to have these kinds of paddles, and the rental that we're doing on the river is a lesser quality paddle, but works just as fine. When I say lesser quality, I guess what I should say is more durable because we're renting them. Now, I'm going to invite you to spend a little money if you wish on some paddles, but don't feel obligated. The price you're paying already covers a paddle with the program, and we've been using them for years, so it's not been a problem. But like most things, sometimes people like to have their own fun toys. Now, what we care about on paddles, really parts of the paddle would certainly be the blade, the throat, the top part. We don't get fancy or anything, but as part of when you are paddling, you're always going to have the same vision. You need your hand up here, and you need your hand here, and you're doing a long reach, and it's called a draw, and you go all the way. And you take take your paddle out of the water, you go in, you do a full draw all the way. And I keep hitting the table because I'm illustrating the point when I say all the way. What a lot of people will do is they'll pull here and then come out. And that's not correct. You've missed half the opportunity to move your boat forward. So it is a full draw, and that is critical for you. Now, as you are drawing, your leverage works very nicely if your hand is here and your other hand is here. And so when you pick your paddle, you need to take a good look at the top of it and make sure that it's not rough here. If you find a paddle that you selected and it's not nice and smooth, get a different paddle because your hand is going to be here all day. If you hold your paddle here and you're working, you're not using the best leverage. There's a reason why a canoe paddle has this kind of setup and this kind of opportunity. So use it there. You want to get the paddle that has the biggest blade, but you don't have a great choice of that. So that's about as good as it's going to get. But you do have to look a little bit at the edge and make sure that this edge right here is not split and not cracking in any way. Now, you might contribute to that because when we're pushing off on our boat, what we do, especially the person in the front, but they're both people, front and back do the same thing. You're going to put your paddle in the water, in the mud, and you're going to push off like that. And that's kind of important to note that you're doing this. You're not jamming it in the water, you're just putting it in the mud and you're pushing. And that's okay, it won't damage the paddle. You just don't want to hit anything with the paddle and break it. What you want to resist, the temptation, I've saw people do this, is they want to protect the blade from splitting, so they'll switch and push off that way. That's absolutely wrong because you will scratch this, and again, that's going to be damaging for your hand. Having a non-smooth top is very much like having a grain of sand in your sock in your shoe. It's not that big, but it's just enough to irritate you every time you step down. Well, the top of your canoe handle is equally as sensitive as your hand is equally sensitive to that. And so when you're paddling on the right side, you're doing a full draw. And when it's time to switch, and of course, it's very simple, nothing fancy about it. You just switch. And that's all there is. You're constantly going to be paddling. So that is your power and that is your steering. When the person in the back paddles, it would be an action like this. And at the last second, before they take the paddle out of the water, they will turn it and leave the paddle in the water and act as a rudder to keep the boat going straight. And then after about 10 seconds of that, the person in the back will then redraw the water, and at the last second before they take it out, turn it so it becomes the rudder. That's whoever's in the back, that's your job. Now, this handle is oriented perfectly to this blade. So you never have to turn your neck around to see where the blade is. It's wherever this is, right? And so when you're paddling, you're going to do, if my hand is up here, you're going to do this, and the last second you're going to twist this way. And that puts the blade in the water. Now, the person in the front, they don't do that. All they're doing is just drawing the water. Because you're the power and you're the vision in the front to see what we're going to hit. For the person in the back, they have an extra job. They have to figure out where this is going to keep the boat going straight. Now, how do you select a paddle? We like to have a paddle come to you about here. Now, the longer the paddle, the better, but it's sometimes hard to find for you tall guys a really long paddle. But just note that the paddle always comes from the ground to about here. Now, I happen to like a longer paddle. This is a preference. This is kind of the reason why Baskin-Robbins has 31 flavors, right? There's different preferences. When you use one of the rental paddles, you want to figure out, get something that's about here. Okay, so this is what you're going to see at the sea base. But they make fancier ones if you want to go out shopping. This particular paddle was a gift. It's very lightweight, much lighter than the one that I just showed you. Now, it's made of wood, and it doesn't look like it'd be lightweight, but it's all hollowed out and has carbon in the inside. It's very cool. And this particular paddle has extra fiberglass on here to protect the blade, and a little extra piece here to take care of the edge. And it's a beautiful paddle, and I love using it. And of course, I'll let you touch it later. You'll see that this nice wood top is absolutely fabulous. And by the way, it's not by accident that this is a hook, because you can sometimes grab the other end of the boat and draw it to you if you need to. And so that's why the paddle has a little extra hook on the handle part, just to help draw. And so it's off camera, but if I were to pull that table with that hook, I could do that if I wanted to. Now this paddle, which I happen to love though, is a little bit shorter, but it does shorter in comparison, but it actually does represent what I recommend you do. You want to get your paddle to be about here. What you want to avoid is the shorter ones. Now for some of you short kids, that's not going to be a problem, but for some of you tall people, you need to pay attention. So if you're going to go shopping, you have to pay attention to that too. So it is really, what's your best length? Generally it's this. There's a lot of debate about making them longer or making them shorter, but we have found what I just discovered, what I just described to you, pretty much to be the best guideline. You've seen me, by the way, put the paddle down. I'm going to just tell you this verbally. We never put this edge into the dirt. Now, occasionally when we're pushing off, we'll put it in the mud, but by and large, whenever you're on a trip, whenever you're standing around with a paddle in your hand and you want to lean on it, that this piece of the paddle goes on the top of your foot at all times. Don't stand around and be pushing this into the dirt, into the sand, and into the rock, unless you absolutely have to. But standing around with your paddle, you don't have to. Now, if you have a really good budget, and you really want to buy yourself a gift, a fully carbonized paddle can be a lot of fun. And this weighs almost nothing. Now, the reason why we care about the weight of the paddle is you're moving it all day. You're drawing water all day. You're doing this action all day. The lighter the paddle, the easier it is for you, the less you'll fatigue. And so lighter paddles are a little bit easier on you as far as fatigue goes. But you pay a price. This is a very pricey item, and I wouldn't recommend anybody get it. But I want to let you know it's an available option. And certainly, I haven't used it yet. You can see it has no scratches. I'll be using it at the next practice. And it too, I got a very tall one because I happen to like a longer paddle, but it would have been just as fine if it was here too. But that is an option. If you're going to go on the internet and buy something, this is a good happy medium. It is a good average paddle, and it has one extra very nice benefit. See, the size of this blade is a little bit bigger, so you get a nice draw out of this particular thing. Now, when I say put it down on the ground and put it on your foot, that's what I'm doing right now. Protect the blade at all costs. Because once this starts to split, whether it be plastic or wood, once it starts to split, it just goes all the way up. And do I dare say you don't want to be up the creek without your paddle? Thank you. All right, everybody, I'm going to give you a quick augment so I'm very clear about the paddle and keeping it safe and keeping it from damage. At all times, the paddle sits on your foot. And when you're sizing the paddle for you, while it's on your foot, you want to get it to be about where your chin is. This is traditional. A little bit lower would be fine, a little bit higher would be fine, but you want to target getting it on your chin while it's on your foot. And at all times, now you'll always know people are in my class because this is a signature item we do. We protect our gear. We take care of the things that take care of us because we use this, and we're 3 days away from any civilization. And are there spare paddles? Yes, there are, but not a lot of spare paddles. So please take care of the blade, take care of the handle, put it on your foot, measure it for yourself. Thank you.